I'm back. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to The Point Podcast. I have missed all of you. I hope you guys have missed me. I have been on a sabbatical of sorts. I've been in Edmonton for the past week and change. I got back early Monday morning, late Sunday night, however you want to describe that. So I was out of commission for a day, and then yesterday I planned to do this show, the comeback show. And of course, technical difficulties arise. And as you can see, I'm in a new location. So I am at my parents' home broadcasting, but we are live. We got internet. That's all that matters. I am ecstatic to be back. I have a lot to say. If that's probably hard for all you to believe. I have a lot to get into from the past week and change in the sports world. Also have some stories and some thoughts about the World Juniors and talk about my trip a little bit. So, yeah, it's just great to be back. I missed all of you. I hope you guys are get ready for some content because we are here in late August. Technically, the college football season starts Saturday, week 0, and we're going to starting next week. Matt Wright's going to join me next Friday. I'm going to try to do it once a week with him if we can. He's a busy dude. We'll see what we can do there. But we're going to talk about betting a lot, the lines. We're going to do a college football preview show next week. We're going to talk NFL gambling lines every Friday on the podcast. We're still going to do our divisional breakdowns. Another one's coming to you all tomorrow. So that's on the docket for the next couple days. So a lot of content coming. Of course, we'll still get into the other sports, but moving forward, it's going to be NFL football heavy because that's what's coming up. That's what everybody loves it. Everybody, this time of year is the best time of year, other than the fact that the great weather is going away. Other than the fact we're going to have snow soon, which is disastrous and just terrible to think about. But we got football, we got college football. We are dialed in here to the point. I'm going to be doing 6 days a week moving forward. There's lots of content. There's lots to talk about, and I'm going to bring it to you all. I haven't done enough lately, and I'm going to make it up for it. I really want to make this push. I really want to put out good content, have some good stuff for you all. Hopefully you guys are going to come along with the journey, listen, leave your reviews, leave some questions on Apple, wherever you get your podcast. I will review them on the show. I'll talk about different, if you want certain topics talked about, you want certain things brought up, let me know, because this is as much your platform as it is mine. I might be the voice. I might be the great hair that you see every day, adequate face, but I want to bring what you guys have to the table, what you guys bring to the show. So leave your feedback, leave things like that, and we'll get into it as we move forward. NFC North preview tomorrow, as well as a full podcast. Seamus will return to the podcast next week, next Tuesday. We may do a live show Saturday. If he's not available Saturday, I'll be doing a show Saturday. That's a promise. Now, I got so much to get into today. So much I want to talk about that happened over the last week and change. But I want to start about Edmonton. It's my second time in Edmonton, technically, although the first time I was there was in January or December, where the World Juniors was 50% capacity, or 500 people capacity, actually. And there was COVID, it was masks, and it was cold as hell. Well, this time it was warm. It was 27 degrees every day, beautiful weather. The hockey was great. But this is just a trip advisor. I'm not a guy that goes on a lot of, fancy trips. I go on, just hop on a bird and go somewhere. If you're just looking for somewhere to go, if you're looking for something fun to do, I would not recommend Edmonton, Alberta to anyone. Edmonton is a sketchy city. There is literally people cracked out on drugs on every street, and I'm saying every street. I've been to big cities where there's like a homeless slash drug population, and they're in one central part. Literally every street corner, middle of streets, you're trying to get to a restaurant, there are people everywhere. It's scary. My companion, one of my best friends, Sawyer, was nearly stabbed, and this is true. I'm sure if you didn't see his social media, he was holding a door for somebody, and somebody had a knife, was ready to stab him. He had to call the cops. It was a whole big thing. I was in a rink watching a game at the time, so your boy was fine. But this happened to us on our trip. So many people around us that you think at some point could stick you with a needle. Anyway, Edmonton, Alberta, complete shithole. Don't go there. This is just a PSA. Go anywhere but Edmonton. I haven't been to Calgary yet. I've heard it's nicer there than it is in this part of Alberta. Edmonton does have a good craft beer market. We drank about, it's a fun story on the trip. We went to this craft beer market. I think it was a Tuesday afternoon, which isn't a good day to admit that we did this, but hey, we're on vacation of sorts. We were drinking these peach ciders. We had probably 8 to 10 each, and the bartender had to come up and tell us that we drank the entire keg. That is a somewhat proud moment for me, but also at the same time, you're like, oh my God, it's Tuesday afternoon and we're drunk as hell here. So that's a good little spot. Other than that, again, Edmonton does not have a whole lot to offer. Good peach ciders and a beautiful rink. That's my takeaway from the trip. Is I've been to a lot. I'm fortunate. I've been to a lot of different hockey rinks around the world. I've been to the Bell Center in Montreal, which I still think is the best place to watch a game. I've never been to a better environment than the Bell Center. If you just, for the crowd, for reaction, for people, excitement, I think the Bell Center is by far the best. But Edmonton, Rogers Place is the nicest arena I've ever been in. It is built like a bubble, but it's connected to the JW Marriott. So there's a hotel attached to it. It's so spacious. Again, it's like a fortress, really. It's a bubble, but it's like I could see Superman living in this fortress, and I loved it. I love the layout. People inside. Again, it didn't get really busy until the last day, but the rink is fantastic. The Oilers have a good setup there. It's great for fans. There's lots of different things for concessions and things of that nature. So love the rink, the nicest rink I've ever been in. Much nicer than Toronto, much nicer than even the Bell Center. I've been to Tampa, not even close. The Rogers Place, by far the best arena I've been in. To be honest, my two favorite rinks are the Rogers Place, which I've just been to, and the Scotiabank, formerly the Metro Center in Halifax. I love the Metro Center. That's another rink that I spent a lot of time in growing up watching my cousin in QMJHL games. So I have a little bit of biases there, but this Rogers Place is immaculate. It's really the only good thing about Edmonton, Alberta, quite frankly. So that's great. Now to the hockey. The the World Juniors did not get as much play on television, did not get as much play nationally because it was in summer for whatever reason. I really don't understand it. Some people might have boycotted Hockey Canada. Morally, I completely understand that. I would never say somebody made a wrong decision in doing that because I talk all the time about my personal struggles. We'll get to Deshaun Watson later, how I struggle with certain things, and you can look past things that you don't really want to in your personal life. And of course, I do that. So for people that didn't watch it, I don't blame you. But I think you got to look past the situation and think of the kids and think of all the people that worked hard to make this event happen. But my biggest takeaway about this World Junior Tournament was more about just, I've been to NHL games. I go to junior events. But the World Juniors is so much different than watching a Q game because the pace of the game and the skill level that you see up close and personal is truly incredible. The plays that these kids make at that speed, the physical game is gone from the sport. It's something I struggle with. I think the sport is suffering because of it, but you also have to enjoy what's in front of you. I'm not going to give up on hockey because the physical aspect is deteriorating. I'm not going to give up on hockey because there's less fights. Some people might. I think you didn't literally love the sport to begin with. But the speed at which they play was my biggest takeaway. And this was every team. You can start and say, well, of course, Canada's going to be fast. But you watch Finland, you watch the Czechs, you watch the Swiss. They all play at a rapid pace. And there's so few mistakes that it's crazy. It's because when there is a mistake, they take advantage of it. You see defensemen overplay the puck. You see what's really a change in the game now, where it used to be you dump the puck in the corner to get a change. That was a good play. Now it's such a philosophical change where you dump the puck in the corner, you might get on the bench and your defense coach is reading you the riot act because, hey, you should have looped around, gave it to your defense partner so we keep puck possession. It's as if 3-on-3 hockey is constantly happening, right? It's as if 3-on-3 is 5-on-5 all the time. And it's so crazy, the speed, things that are happening. So the speed was number one for me. What you see, in particular, live, how you can see it on television, but you seeing it up close and personal, it's just different. It hits different. That's one thing for me. Number two, there were so many great players in this tournament, and it was labeled a tournament that didn't have a whole lot of great talent. You heard about the Mason McTavishes. You heard about Ken Johnson, two guys that will be playing in the NHL next year. That just became more and more clear to me. But I go to the other countries that wouldn't get as much play, in particular TSN or from the person that knows the tournament. For me, the best player in the 2022 World Junior Hockey Championships was Emil Andrei, who was the captain number 4 for Team Sweden. This guy has hockey IQ, he has a shot, he has deception, he has the whole package. He's a mid-round draft pick of the Philadelphia Flyers, and I haven't seen somebody play that well. I think of Victor Mete when he played at the World Juniors. He was a third-round pick for Canada. He was coming off playing in the National Hockey League for half a season. He got loaned from the Montreal Canadiens, and he didn't look this good. Andre hasn't played a second in the National Hockey League. He's played pro in Sweden. He was phenomenal. He had Todd Woodcroft, the brother of Jay Woodcroft, head coach of the Edmonton Oilers. He ran the defense for Team Sweden. It was as if he didn't have to coach because Andre decided when he got on and off the ice. He spent the entire 2 minutes on the ice in the power play. He'd penalty kill when there was an icing. He didn't have to say to his defenseman, get off the ice. He got on. To put this into perspective, Simon Edvinsson was a 5th-round pick of the Detroit Red Wings. He looked good. I liked him. At times, his game struggled a little bit. I think he moves extremely well for a big man. He had an okay tournament. Andre looked steps ahead of him, which he should be. Edvinsson got taken in the draft, but I think Andre looked better. They're both 19-year-olds. Andre is more NHL ready than Simon Edvinsson. I wouldn't doubt either of them get a sniff this season, and that's how good I think both guys are. But Emil Andrei was the best player in the tournament. Mason McTavish might have won MVP, and he had a fantastic tournament, 19 points in 7 games. Emil Andrei was the best player in the tournament. Finland. I mentioned this before I left. Brad Lambert, who is a player I like, he did fall in the draft. He was projected to be a top 15 pick. He fell to 30th to the Winnipeg Jets. He did not play in the semifinal, and he did not play in the gold medal game. And I did not hear a reason why. I don't know what happened there. Finland got close. If they had him, maybe they win that gold medal game. That was one thing. Topi Niemela is another great player in this tournament. Toronto Maple Leaf pick. Matthew Nyes did not have a great tournament. If you're a Leafs fan, Matthew Nyes did not do much for me watching him live. He's not a great skater. He's very good down low. I think he lacks a physical game, which, again, that's the new wave, but I think he needs it if he's going to be successful. I look at that tournament for Leafs fans that were hoping that he doesn't go to school. I wouldn't be looking that way because he's not NHL ready. Give Nick Robertson his up-team chance after not earning it, because Matthew Nyes is not an NHL player yet. Topi Niemela is going to be a really good pro. Topi Niemela has a great skating ability. He's got an underrated shot. I think he can be a power play surgeon, if you will. The least of a lot of high-end talent, but maybe some of them leave eventually. Or you want to sub out Morgan Rielly, which I don't think is a bad idea either, because Morgan Rielly on that power play has been like a squeaky wheel for a long time. Topi Niemela, I think, can be a high-end defenseman. I think he can be a better NHLer than Morgan Rielly. So, again, he had back-to-back tournaments. The only reason he wasn't one of the top D-men in the tournament, the only take two, Andre was the best player in the tournament. Of course he's going to be taken. And Zellweger was the other selection for Canada. By far the most improved player in the tournament from what I saw in December. His skating ability, his confidence, his all-around game. Zellweger has improved so much. A fantastic talent. And I just think he's going to be a stud. He's going to Anaheim. Jamie Drysdale's there. They drafted my guy Noah Warren in this past year's draft. Anaheim just knows how to develop, knows how to produce really good defensemen. Cam Fowler's been a solid defenseman for a long time. Look at Shea Theodore, who's now in Vegas. Hampus Lindholm has had a solid career. I expect Zellweger to be another great defenseman that comes out of the Anaheim Duck organization. Jesper Walstad. Jesper Walstad is another best goaltender in the tournament. He is so confident. He moves extremely well. He's just rock solid. He gave up 2 goals in 2 games in the semifinal and the bronze medal win for Team Sweden. What more could you ask from a guy where he made 28 saves against Finland in the semifinal and he made 29 saves in the bronze medal against Team Czechia? So, and quite honestly, Sweden didn't deserve to win the bronze medal. Czechia was a better team. I credit Jesper Walstad. He came in being touted as the best goaltender in the tournament. I leave thinking the same way. Dylan Garand and Rakala might have won the gold and silver medals. That doesn't change my opinion on who the best goaltender was in the tournament. That was Jesper Walstad, and he proved it in the biggest moments down the stretch. Now we get to some interesting things. I'm not a hot take person. I think I just give takes. I think I just give my opinion. Normally, I think it's reasonable. Some of you might not. If you're a Leaf fan, you might think I'm a hater. I've been through this. Let's get to Connor Bedard. Connor Bedard has some elite tendencies. He has an NHL shot already at 17 years old. He has decent physical attributes for a guy that's not particularly big. I'd say he's probably my size, 5'10", if not. He's probably 5'10", 170 pounds. And that's about what I weigh. So, again, he's about what – you look at me, it's probably what he is. But – and, he's coming in, he's the phenom, he's a generational talent, whatever kind of adjective you want to throw on. I leave the tournament, and I don't have that same opinion. And this is not just because everybody has that opinion, I need to be different. I watch the games, and I look a lot at body language, and I look a lot at just overall your being on the ice and how you present yourself and how you want to look to your teammates and how you want to present yourself to your competition. I think Connor Bedard at times looked like a little kid. I thought Connor Bedard at times pouted. I thought he didn't focus enough on the little things and focus on the fact that he couldn't get a goal in the big games. Focus on the fact that he got demoted to a third line. And I'm sure he leaves this tournament happy he won a gold medal, but a little pissed off that Dave Cameron coached him tough. Dave Cameron, who's from PEI, wins a gold medal. Congrats to him. Coach Connor Bedard really hard because, quite frankly, Connor Bedard is horrible in his own zone. His defensive instincts, his defensive ability, quite frankly, is pretty terrible. It's subpar. And I don't leave the tournament thinking, okay, yes, he's got a great shot, but I don't look at, when I think of generational talent, I don't think it's just one component. Austin Matthews has a great shot, like Connor Bedard. Completely true. But Austin Matthews could play a defensive role. It took him some time, and he got better at it. I thought, he was drive-by central in the first couple of years of his career. I pointed that out more than anybody. I think I helped motivate him to get better at his own zone. I'll take credit for that, because why not? But he also, I look at Bedard, I don't look at a guy that's going to be a guy that gets a whole lot of assists. He's a guy that wants to get the puck and wants to shoot it. And, McTavish has a great shot as well. And I talked about how I thought I was wrong at the beginning of the tournament that these guys wouldn't have much chemistry. They lost it as it went on. Eventually, Joshua Waugh, who had a good end to the tournament, who had an opening goal in the gold medal game, he was on a line with William Dufour and Mason McTavish. And they ultimately get 2 goals in the gold medal game, Dufour getting the second of the campaign. So I look at Connor Bedard, and I think he has some work to do. Very talented player, no doubt about it. Has an elite wrister. You give him space, he's going to burn you. But physically and just defensive awareness and giving a shit on the other end is something he needs to work on. I can't label him a generational talent yet because I haven't seen it. I'm super curious to see what he's going to bring in Moncton and in Halifax. And here's a PSA for everybody. If you want to go to this event, do not buy season tickets to the Wildcats because you will not be able to watch Team Canada. You need to. Team Canada will not be playing in Moncton unless it's a pre-tournament game, which nobody cares about. They're playing in Halifax. I don't know if you saw that. Gord Miller tweeted it out. But I've heard people pontificate about them playing in Moncton. They're not going to be playing in Moncton ever. If there's a crossover, Canada will stay in Halifax. This is just how it works. I just want to let everybody know so that there's not mass people pissed off when this comes. I told my parents this the second it happened. I think I had some pushback from my father, but I got the upper hand, and I like being right when in debates with my father more than any other human being on planet Earth. I love him to death, but he thinks he's right all the time, as do I. That's one thing we're similar about. And then I heard from people that were at the event that they bought tickets, and I said, you're not going to be able to watch Canada play, which then met me with anger. So I just want to relay that message to all of you that Canada will be playing in Halifax. All their games will be in Halifax, none in Moncton, just to let you guys know. I don't want you to buy I don't want everybody to buy tickets and be pissed off the fact that you don't get to see Connor Bedard play. If you're buying tickets in Moncton, you're not going to be able to see Connor Bedard play. Sorry. That's just a PSA. Logan Stankoven and Johnson. Kent Johnson. This is my second. This line with Forster was the best line in the tournament. Johnson, Stankoven, and Forster, their worst game was the gold medal game, although Johnson got the golden goal, so go figure there. But Kent Johnson was the decision maker on the power play. Kent Johnson was the silkiest player. He could make people miss. And Logan Stankoven, who had a fantastic season in the WHL, who had over 100 points, 50 goals, was the WHL Player of the Year, CHL Player of the Year. He looked fantastic. To me, he looked close to being an NHL player. Kent Johnson will be an NHL player next season. But these two guys were really the spark plug for Canada. When they needed somebody to step up, when they're going through the quarterfinal and McTavish and Bedard were snake bit, it was Johnson and it was Stankoven who provided that burst. It was Ridley Gregg in the final preliminary game against Finland. But the next 2 games, the semifinal and then the quarterfinal against the Swiss, it was Stankoven, Johnson, and Forster that provided the most. But Stankoven does have skill, but what I think will make him a really good pro is he is fearless. He's not afraid to go in the middle of the ice. He's not afraid to go into the corner. And I think every player is the best player on their team, right? And some people need to pivot. If you read Nick Kyprios's book, he talks about this, how he needed to become a fighter in his era in order to adapt, in order to make the next leap. Stan Coven will not have the space, will not be as creative at the next level because guys just aren't. He will need to adapt his game a bit. And seeing what he did in this tournament, I think he'll be able to do that. I think he'll be able to get to those dirty areas, to get to the front of the net, score goals from there, because that's where Canada really won this tournament, was scoring greasy goals. 9 out of 10 of their goals were right in front of the net, were ugly, were from a rebound, from a shot, right? It's all luck. It's all being in the right place at the right time. But to be in the right place at the right time, you need to have the balls. You need to have the perseverance, the fortitude to get your ass into the blue paint area. Think of Braden Point in the Stanley Cup Finals again for Tampa Bay. He was scoring from his office. He scored 13 goals in Tampa's second Stanley Cup playoff run, and 11 of the 13 were like 3 feet away from the net. So you need to be able to get to those areas to succeed. I think Stan Coven can do that at the next level. I think Johnson can be an elite player at the next level. I think Johnson will be a better pro than Mason McTavish. And that brings me to Mason McTavish, who was tournament MVP. I'll start off by saying this. I don't think Mason McTavish won MVP of the gold medal game. He shouldn't have. He was not the best player in that game. He did make the most important play of the game, which kudos to him. I don't know how he stopped that puck. And if you watch the game, you know what I'm talking about. In overtime, he knocks the puck out of midair. Somehow it stays from going across the line. I think it's the best non-goaltender save in hockey history. That includes the NHL. That includes, I've never seen anything like it. I was in the building live. I was dead center. I had great seats. I thought the puck was in. I thought it was over. They went back down the ice. I was expecting the horn to go off for the review people, who I hate, to tell us that the puck went over the line, the game's over. But then there's a whistle. You see the review in the building. You're like, holy shit, it stayed out. 30 seconds later, Kent Johnson wins it for Canada. So for McTavish, he has a play that will be remembered forever. 19 points in 7 games is elite. That will not be forgotten. I think he's got a lot of really good traits. I think he's a better skater than I've seen him play so many times live now at the Memorial Cup. I've seen him play here. I've seen him play, obviously, in December. So I've seen a lot of Mason McTavish. I think he will be a good pro. The one thing I would say is sometimes he can fade away in games. He will score a goal, and that you remember that. I think there are a lot of players that can kind of rest on their own laurels, where you'll score a goal and then your night's done. I had a good game. I scored a goal. I remember this growing up. I had multiple teammates that had this mentality. It's frustrating because just because you score a goal, well, if we lose the game, that doesn't mean you had a great game. We lost. So that's you can score 6 goals. You can score 6 touchdowns. If you lose the game, you lose the game. You're trying to win. It's a team sport. So I think for him, he needs to learn how to stay involved in games, whether it's a defensive role, whether it's his ability to win faceoffs. He's a big, strong dude. I think he'll be able to do that at the next level. But being involved the entire game for Mason McTavish is something I think he needs to learn. He's still young. He'll only be 20 in November, but he had a fantastic, fantastic tournament. So kudos to him, and he made the play of the century. But yeah, I'm looking through my notes. McTavish, Bedard, Andrade, Niemela, Walstad. Where was Brad Lambert? Oh, yes. Okay. I don't like 3-on-3 in overtime. I don't like that setup. I was there, and this was when I was still a fan of teams. And this is another thing. I watched that game. I had no emotion. Canada won. I was not excited. It's a sick thing. I don't know how. I should go see therapy, but Lord knows I'm not going to, because why would I? I'm so perfect, and I don't want to go talk about my feelings and whatnot, so I'm not going to do that. But Canada won. I didn't scream. I stood up because the game was over, but even when Canada scored their first 2 goals, I did not stand up. I had no reaction. I had no and it's my country. I love this country. We got lots wrong with it. Prime Minister right up there. But I had no emotion. I don't love that feeling. I wish I did, but I've really lost my way in being a fan, which is good for this show because I'm giving you my thoughts. I'm not a fan of anybody. I have my favorite players, but I don't have a favorite team. I could care less who wins any game. That includes Canada. I wish it wasn't that way, but that's just my thought process on everything. It's bad, but nevertheless. But with this tournament, I was there in 2017. Yes, it was 2017. I graduated in 2016. So this would have been, this was my second semester of university, my first year university. It was 2017, where Canada played the United States in the final at the Bell Center in Montreal. My friend Nick called me that day, called me at 11 p.m. and said, "Do you want to go to the game tomorrow? There are tickets online." And I was supposed to start my second semester the next day, had to convince my mother, who thought I should go to school, of course, to let me go to the game. I was going either way. My dad was like, "You should go." Always on the same line with my mother, which was a fun interaction. And eventually they pick me up at 4 a.m. We go to the game. Nevertheless, the game goes to overtime, full 20 minutes, 5-on-5. It ends in a shootout. Completely, so the worst way to end any game is a shootout. It's embarrassing. It hurts my soul to see anybody lose at the hands of a gimmick is blasphemous. But I will say this. Overtime only lasted 3 minutes, which most people are happy because you get your ass out of the building, things move on quicker. I get it. People for TV are happier about that. I would have liked to see 5-on-5 throughout the entire overtime. The game was extremely close at the end of regulation. Finland dominated the third period, in particular 5-on-5. Canada was 0 for 7 on the power play. They were reeling a bit. I think if it's 5-on-5 for the entire overtime, I think Finland wins the game. I could be wrong. We'll never know. But I think Finland would have won the game. And for Canadians, I understand you want Canada to win, so you're not going to look for that. That's just my opinion being there and my take on the game. So I would like continuous 5-on-5. It's the last game of the tournament. It's not like you need to rest to hope for something else. So I think you play it until somebody wins. It's like NHL overtime. I think the game would have ended. It's junior hockey. They do make more mistakes than the pros, although I talked about how there's not many mistakes. Somebody will make one through fatigue, and I just think it should finish that way. There's no rush. In the semifinal, if you need to do 3-on-3, okay. Again, I don't love it. Never a shootout. Never. There's no way. In a tournament, why not just have a tie? You can tie. Don't go to a shootout. It's, again, I hate it. I hate it. And I just think 5-on-5 continuous in a gold medal game is the format that it should be. It's worked for the NHL forever. I think it's the best overtime format there is. The NFL is changing their format, which I liked their old format better, where you win the coin flip, you got the ball, if you score a touchdown, you win. I think that's a good format because the defense has a chance to stop you too. But in this tournament, I would like continuous 5-on-5, 3-on-3 in overtime. I don't like that. It's just not for me, and that's not the way I would have handled the situation. But again, I'm at tournament organizers, and I don't got to catch flights in the morning. So, good for them. All in all, it was a fantastic experience. This is the second time I got to go to a gold medal World Junior final, and I'm only 23. So I'm very fortunate. I'm hopefully will be able to attend my third one in Halifax this upcoming January. So you got a World Junior in just a few months. My takeaways from this trip, I think if you have the right location and you have if you have Hockey Canada in a state of just cohesion, if you have nobody hating Hockey Canada, if there's no backlash, if there's no negativity, for a better word, I think you can have 2 World Juniors a year because you can have 2 different teams. Some guys will age out. You have guys that will come in. Maybe they'll play the tournament. They won't be on the tournament in December and January. So I think this tournament can happen twice a year. I think there's enough of an appetite for hockey in the correct environments. And I'll just throw one in particular. Moncton and Halifax have World Junior rinks. And I think in December, January, it's smarter to fill NHL barns because people will attend. It's attached to the holidays. It's TSN. People have a connection to the tournament then, correct? So you go to large events. You go to Edmonton. You go to Calgary. You go to Montreal, Toronto, Vancouver, wherever you want to have it, Prince George. But then in the summer, you go to junior rinks. You go to small places like a Moncton, like a Halifax, St. John even. Think of little maritime places in Canada that will host a Summer World Juniors. I think Europe would be good for this. They have smaller rinks. What if you did a World Junior Summer tournament in Davos, where you have Davos and you can attach Zurich to it? Smaller rinks, but again, you'll sell tickets. So I think the World Juniors has the potential to be done twice a year. It's just doing it, planning it the correct way. So I don't think they'll ever do this. I think this is a colossal failure, this World Junior Summer Edition, when it comes to attendance. They had to they dropped ticket price for the gold medal game. I know they gave out free tickets to minor hockey so that people filled the barn for the gold medal game. But the gold medal game was sold out. It was a fantastic atmosphere. So you got to love that. I think there's enough of an appetite to fill barns in the summertime. The Maritimes, I think Maritime people will support, because guess what? You don't support, we'll never have something again. You'll never have this opportunity to get people to live sporting events, to see live hockey, and to see this level of talent ever again. So that's the carrot that people need to understand here and really understand. But fantastic experience. My cousin didn't get stabbed. I didn't get stabbed. But don't go to Edmonton. Go to Moncton and Halifax for the next trip. That I think then after in 2024 it's in Sweden, which would be really cool. So yeah, look for those events and bypass Edmonton. It's a little to a lot sketchy. I don't have any plans to return. I don't care for the city. Fuck Edmonton. We're going to stay with hockey for a bit because I do want to get to something I want you guys all to watch, which I watched while I was in Edmonton, and it's completely mind-blowing, and I want to talk about it. But I want to talk about Nazim Cadre first. Nazim Cadre has been on the market since early July, and it was last Friday, April 19th, that Nazim Cadre agreed to sign with the Calgary Flames. A 7-year, $49 million contract, $7 million per year. Nazim, who I mentioned, had been waiting a month. It paid off for him. He waited. He goes to a good situation, and he gets a long-term deal at 30 years old. It's a fair number for him. I don't think it's going to be a contract that particularly ages well, but this is a team in Calgary that felt they had to do it. They flipped Sean Monahan to the Montreal Canadiens. They also get a conditional 2025 first-round pick. I want to start with the Montreal of this because they got two pieces of news, and then I'll pivot back to Calgary. Montreal, they acquire Sean Monahan, who's had something like 26 surgeries in his career. It's crazy. The guy is a battle-tested. I have a lot of respect for Sean Monahan. He's only 27, but he's so battered. He's got 1 year left on his deal, so Montreal's just eating that contract. But to me, it signals acquiring Sean Monahan, and then you hear the news that Carey Price will likely miss the entire season. Career could be over. If I am the Montreal Canadiens, Jake Allen's going to be your number one goalie. He's a solid goalie, but he's not a number one goaltender in the NHL. I don't care what anybody says. He had an opportunity to do it in St. Louis forever. He didn't. He might be the best backup goalie in the NHL. He is not a starter. You're not going to be winning many games with Jake Allen. That's just the facts of life. So for Montreal, you just selected Jurek Slavkovsky, who is 18 years old. Yes, he's got a great shot. Had a bad season last year in Europe. If I am Kent Hughes, if I am Jeff Gorton, Jurek Slavkovsky plays zero, and I'm going to repeat this, 0 games for the Montreal Canadiens next season. The Montreal Canadiens, I thought, wanted to be competitive this season. Without Carey Price, without adding, getting Sean Monahan is subtracting to your team, not adding. You're not trying to be better with Sean Monahan. I'm sorry. I love him to death, but that's just not the way it is. Losing Price, the best goalie of his generation, and adding Sean Monahan signals we are trying to be bad again. So, my first overall pick, who I believe can be a generational talent, does not play in the NHL next season. I am not doing to him what they did to Jesperi Kotkaniemi, where they're going to ask him to be more than what he is right now. If you have a foundation around him, full of good players, full of talent, I'm okay with playing him. They're not going to be good. Cole Caulfield still needs to find his way. The guy could have another struggling season. He could be a guy that's out of the NHL sooner rather than later. That might be crazy for some people to hear. It's not out of the realm of possibility. We've seen it too many damn times to think that it can't happen. But Slavkovsky is not going to be my Kotkaniemi part 2. He is going back. He can play in the Finnish Elite League for this entire season. Maybe if you want to play him at the end of this year, get him a few games, fine. But he is not taking part in this season until the very end. We're going to miss the playoffs again. We'll get another high draft pick, hopefully get another goaltender of the future, and we'll see where that goes. But he is not playing not one damn game. That he's not playing until at least end of March, early April. Because I don't want him in this web of toxicity, web of failure, web of just negative. Because Suzuki can take it. He's signed long-term. He's proven to be a good NHLer. Caulfield needs to prove himself. Josh Anderson is there. Gallagher is re-signed long-term. They have a lot of bad contracts. Well, if you want to add Monahan another bad contract, then work through this season to get some of those bad contracts off your books. Monahan has 1 season left, so he can depart. Even if you're not able to trade him at the trade deadline, who cares? He's gone after this year. Gallagher has something 5-6 years left on his deal. Try to deal him. Try to deal Josh Anderson. There's some bad contracts on this team. Do what you can to move those out. That is my thought with the Montreal Canadiens. Slavkovsky does not play 1 game. He does not start the season in the NHL. I see he's at Montreal FC games. That scares the hell out of me that he's going to be playing on this team this year. Don't ruin this kid like you ruined Jesperi Kotkaniemi. Maybe he could have been better than what he is. Maybe he's just too high a draft pick. 2 things can be true. Jesperi Kotkaniemi reminds me of Daniel Jones of the NFL with the New York Giants. He was a decent player at Duke, mid-first rounder, likely second, third round draft pick. He gets taken 6th overall. See where his career's gone so far. It's completely terrible. Davis Webb is looking better than him in preseason, for Christ's sake. So do the correct thing here, Montreal. You fired the last clowns that couldn't players. Well, you got a new regime. Do it the right way. He would not be playing. No chance he's playing this year. We'll see what they do. Kadri and the Flames. Brad Treliving is a guy that takes a lot of heat. Takes a lot of heat from me, quite frankly. I'm not afraid to say that I think he does stupid stuff. I'm not afraid to say I think he makes poor decisions. And I think at times that's warranted. They've been a team that's either missed the playoffs or gotten to the second round. That's the farthest he's gotten at his tenure, is get to a second round of the playoffs. He's had some great players. But this offseason, Johnny Gaudreau decides to leave Calgary after getting offered $10.5 million over 8 years to go to Columbus. Okay, you tried to keep him, you couldn't. Then Matthew Tkachuk says, holy crap, Gaudreau's gone, our team's going to stink. I want out. So Tkachuk is then traded to Florida. But to think you lose your 2 best players from last year, both guys had over 100 points, and you bring in John Huberdeau, who had over 100 points as well, Mackenzie Wieger, who might be the most important addition on this team, and then Nazim Cadre, who's fresh off 87 points in 71 games, who's fresh off winning a Stanley Cup and having the best season of his career. You can make the argument that the Calgary Flames are better today than they were when they lost Game 5 to the Edmonton Oilers in the second round of the Western Conference playoffs. This was great work by Brad Treliving. And to me, the biggest addition when it comes to this team being competitive is not Kadri or Huberdeau. It's Mackenzie Wieger. Mackenzie Wieger is the Calgary Flames' best defenseman on their roster. It's not Rasmus Andersson. He's not proven to be a number one guy. I'm not saying Mackenzie Wieger is a number one defenseman, but I think Mackenzie Wieger is their most reliable offensive defenseman. And that's how you win in today's game. You need guys that put up points. He is incredibly valuable in that area. He had a terrible second round series against the Tampa Bay Lightning, but who didn't on the Florida Panthers? But you get him to add to that with Tanev and with Anderson and with Valimaki. That defense core lost Goodbranson, which is addition by subtraction. This Calgary team is legit. I think Wieger is going to get a huge role in this team. Huberdeau will be good for a number of seasons, and I expect Kadri to be just as driven next year. A guy who I'm sure would have loved to go back to Colorado, run it back, and win a championship. But for Kadri, he can now look at the situation and say, I'm in Calgary. We got the best goaltender in the division, which is true, in Jacob Markstrom. We have to beat Edmonton, who beat us last year. Yes, they have McDavid, but he just beat McDavid in a series against the Edmonton Oilers. So we can do it. We got a better goaltender than them. You could argue a better defense core. We have better, after our depth, they're better with Majanapani and with Elias Lindholm, who's still a stud, and their core pieces. We got a good team. Then you could also look at, well, Vegas doesn't have a goaltender. They got Logan Thompson right now. That's who they have. And Sebastian Reneschitz, who played for Austria at the World Junior Hockey Championships. That's their depth chart. They're going to trade for James Reimer. Okay, trade for James Reimer. We still have Jacob Markstrom. He's the best goalie in the division. Anaheim is going to stink. LA, solid team. They got better, but I still think we're better than them. So you look at the division and say, at least for next season, likely the next couple, we are going to have the best team in this division. That means we make the playoffs every year at the very least by winning the division, and we have an easier path to get through the postseason. So Brad Treliving deserves a ton of credit, but I will add this. General managers who are desperate, who know they're in a window where they need to win, will sign long-term contracts where maybe they're not the smartest contracts to sign in the world. Nazim Cadre is 30 years old. He's got a lot of wear on those tires. He got injured in the postseason. He's a guy that does get injured. I don't think those injuries are going to go away at 30. I don't think Nazim Kadri is the type of guy that's going to change the way he's going to play so he gets less contact on that body. So how long does he stay what he is right now? I don't know, and I don't think anybody can predict that. But that's something that is tough to say what's going to happen with Nazim Cadre. Jonathan Huberdeau, terrible defensive player now, really doesn't even try in his own zone, is one of the most creative wingers in the league. But how's he going to look in a couple years? He'll be 30 in June. That's when his contract kicks in. Brad Treliving is signing these big deals because he knows he needs to win now. This Calgary team might not be better off in the long run with the contracts he's giving out. You can say that they're bad contracts and still say it's a positive thing because you're going to win. They're not mutually exclusive because Kadri and Huberdeau help the Flames win today. But those Kadri and Huberdeau contracts can also be an anchor to the Calgary Flames being competitive for years and years to come because they just don't physically have it anymore. So for Treliving, he's in his mid-50s. He probably knows he has a couple years left here in Calgary if they don't find some success. To me, he's lucky to still have a job there. I would have fired him before this season. Before last season, sorry. And he's done some good work. I give him full credit for that. Although, I look at his deadline deals, didn't exactly work out. But letting Goodbranson walk and letting Järnkrok walk, who was a terrible addition at the trade deadline for the Flames, those are both good moves. But I'm curious to see where these go, where these contracts go, and how the Flames look next season. I will say I think the Battle of Alberta will be just as spicy because Kadri is similar to Kachuk. Kadri was injured at the hands of Evander Kane. I don't think Kadri's just going to let that one go. Evander Kane resigns in Edmonton. You're going to see those two guys go at it for years to come. That's fun. Huberdeau and McDavid are similar players. They'll go at it when it comes to skill level. Wieger's got a bite to him. He's a guy that can engage physically and get involved in that type of stuff. Markstrom versus Jack Campbell. Again, that's not really a fair fight, but we'll see. I think it keeps the Battle of Alberta relevant, keeps the Battle of Alberta still a possibility, right? I think the Battle of Ontario has a chance to rejuvenate itself this year because the Ottawa Senators are going to be a good team. I still think they need to tweak a little bit. We'll see if they can do that. But I think they'll made some good additions with the Brinkat and with their draft picks and different moves that they made to stay competitive, getting Cam Talbot in net. I think the Ottawa Senators can be a good team. I think that the Toronto Maple Leafs will remain a good team. So you might have a Battle of Ontario in the East in Canada that is at least interesting, that will make you want to tune into a Saturday night to say, let's see how this goes. Let's see how Ottawa fares against the Maple Leafs for the first time in ever where it actually means something. And you might tune into see the Battle of Alberta at the end of the night just to say, okay, I know this is going to be compelling because these two teams met in the playoffs last year. Edmonton came out on top, winning twice on the road, including Game 5 at the Saddledome. So I'm eager to see where this goes with Calgary, but I give them a ton of credit because I believe adding to their back end is so vital for this team. It was something I think lacking. They needed help in front of Markstrom. And now I think their defense is not perfect, but Markstrom is a good enough goalie where he needs to be able to overcome some defensive efficiencies. Edmonton, they lost to Edmonton last year, and Edmonton's not a good defensive team. Edmonton is a very much run and gun squad, and they were able with Mike Smith to get past the Calgary Flames. So I think Markstrom, a lot of pressures on him this season to be the goalie that they signed, to be an elite guy, because Jack Campbell, his history is he's good when he's healthy, but when he's healthy is a big point in this, and often he's not available for you in the big games. So we'll see where this goes down the stretch, but interesting with the Flames and what the business they've done over the last couple of months. Islanders quickly. I thought the Islanders made a few good moves. They re-signed Alexander Romanov to a 3-year deal worth $2.5 million. It's a good deal. I still think he's learning to play at the NHL level. I like him a lot, though, and I think that's a good contract for Lou Lamoriello. They also re-signed Noah Dobson, 3 years times $4 million. He had 51 points last year. He's only getting better. Another PEI product. But for Lou Lamoriello and the Islanders, I don't know where they're going here. They made no additions this offseason. They did not land Nazim Cadre. That was the big rumor. They didn't add anybody to this roster. They have the same team. They came out and said they're not going to re-sign Zdeno Chara. Okay, great. But you still got Brock Nelson. You still got Anders Lee. You have your core of your team back for another year. Pollock and Pelech and Mayfield. This defense is still intact. Sylvian Varlamov is still on this team with Ilya Sorokin. So he couldn't add a single piece to this team. They missed the playoffs. So I think a lot of pressures on the Islanders to be relevant. They made back-to-back conference finals. I'm not going to kick dirt on Lou Lamoriello. I don't think he's lost his fastball, if you will. I've heard that mentioned over the last couple of days. What I will say is I do think the player empowerment era where players want to be themselves and players want to have some freedom when it comes to culture, when it comes to how they dress, I think that comes into it. I know I wouldn't want to play for Lou Lamoriello. For me, Lou Lamoriello is very much a curmudgeon. He's a guy I like my hair. My hair is long. I don't like to be ever to me, this is clean shaven. If you're watching on YouTube, I do have some scruff on my face. I don't like to ever be completely clean shaven because I look like I'm 5 years old. So I don't want to be a little boy. I don't want to be a little kid. And with Lou, you have to be clean shaven every single day. I don't want to shave every day. It's a pain in the ass. I don't like the process. So I would never want to play for him. I would never want to be employed by him. Now, I think our fathers and our grandfathers would love Lou Lamoriello. Of course, Lou's 80 years old. My father's going to be 55. but I think he's got more Lou in him than maybe he might want to admit. I think our fathers would like that style of leadership, and it's just everybody's the same. I hate that because we're not. That's what makes the world interesting, is none of us are the same. If we're all the same, the world would be a really, really boring place. If you think about Lou Lamoriello, a lot of his tendencies are from the book 1984. If you haven't read 1984, I highly recommend that you do. It's about the thought police. It's about people all being the same, all being told the same thing. You have the same job. Everybody has the same status. So a lot of Marxism principles are in the book. If it wasn't a required reading, I buy the book. It's worth a read. It's extremely interesting, really thought provoking. So I just think and maybe I'm off base here, but I think a lot of it has to do with, like, Austin Matthews played for Lou in Toronto. I don't think Austin Matthews would have lasted with Lou a whole lot longer. So you see Austin, he goes to games, he dresses different, he likes to have the stash. Bill Nylander has the long hair. You look around sports, guys just like to be themselves, right? They like to have certain things about them. Trevor Zegras is on the NHL cover. He's a different cat. They like to be their own selves. They like to have an identity. Under Lou Lamoriello, you don't have one. You all have short hair. You all don't have a beard. You all can't dress. You're just a cog in the machine. And coming from, I'm not even a millennial. I'm the generation before the millennials. Or after. No, I'm a generation after millennial. I'm not a millennial. I tell people that all the time. I'm closer to being an old school, but I don't want that, because you want to have some freedom to be who you are. And I don't think you get that in Long Island. That would push me away from signing there. Kadri, he has a beard all the time. He would not, I think he'd miss having his beard. Would Joe Thornton ever go play for Lou Lamoriello? I don't think so. Some people are just good with it. I think it's Scott Niedermayer. I think he's a perfect Lou guy because he just plays hockey, does his thing, and that's just all he does. Some guys, it works. Martin Brodeur was boring as hell. Sidney Crosby would be a great Lou guy because he's boring already. So I think guys would fit into that system. Well, then there's other guys that just want to be their own self, and they don't want to have that rope wrapped around their neck where they have to be something that they're just not. So I think the Islanders will have a good season. They made it back-to-back conference finals with a similar roster. Matt Barzal is still there. They still have a good defense score. Ilya Sorokin has all the potential in the world to be a number one goaltender at the NHL level. But it's a big season for the Islanders to perform for Lou Lamoriello at his age. And after firing Barry Trotz, which was probably the most surprising thing of the offseason, they need to produce, or he's going to be on the hot seat sooner rather than later in Long Island. So that's the hockey stories that I wanted to get to. Before we get to NFL news and notes, I want to talk about something that I watched in Edmonton. And I recommend to all of you that you guys sit down and watch this. It is a documentary on Netflix and is about former Notre Dame and NFL linebacker Manti Te'o. It is a documentary called Untold: The Girlfriend That Never Existed. And basically it's about Manti Te'o being catfished by this man turned transgender woman in college. It started in high school, but then he goes to play for Notre Dame. He's in contact with this man at the time who he believed to be a girl, who created a fake identity. And during his senior season at Notre Dame, where he's having a fantastic year, he's up for the Heisman, he gets word that his grandmother has passed away. And through all of this, he wants to meet this girlfriend of his. He's talking about his girlfriend online. He never met her, never FaceTime, if you can believe that. And he is given word that his girlfriend has passed away. And it's this man on the other line. He goes a couple of months with telling people nationally that his girlfriend has passed away, until months later, just before the national championship game, he is told that no, it's actually a man on the other line. It's not a woman, and Manti never had a girlfriend. I don't want to spoil everything for you. It's an incredibly well done documentary. I feel for the guy tenfold watching this. I have a really big issue with the way that the documentary went, though. The fact that they played up so hard that that this that the man turned transgender woman. They talk about how her their feelings through all of this, and I don't know why they're given sympathy. They acted bad. They acted to hurt Manti. It hurt his career. It goes through how he fell in the NFL draft. I would watch this. These untold docs are usually well done. There's a fantastic one called Malice at the Palace, which if you're not familiar with, it was an altercation that happened in Detroit in the early 2000s. It involves Ron Artest. It involves Rip Hamilton going into the stands fighting fans. Jermaine O'Neal, it changed people's careers. It changed them financially. It changed basketball, really, Malice at the Palace. That's another thing I think everybody should watch is that documentary called Malice at the Palace. They're doing another one, an untold documentary called, I'm not sure what the title is. I believe it's coming out this week. It's about Tim Donaghy, who was an NBA referee who fixed games. That's another one that I have on the docket, so I can't wait to watch that one. So a lot of good content coming from Netflix recently, and that's just one for me. Manti Te'o, The Girlfriend That Never Existed. I implore all of you to watch it. I watched it in Edmonton. It was fantastic, and you feel for the guy because he's a guy who comes from the Mormon religion, and catfishing was not a big prevalent topic at the time. However, I will admit, I think if this guy was not a Mormon, if he was not a religious person, he would have figured this out. He just had such faith in people, and maybe because I'm such a cynic and I don't think that way at all, I think I would have figured it out. But Manti, you leave this documentary really feeling bad for the guy. You feel like he just got completely screwed. But Manti Te'o, The Girlfriend That Never Existed documentary on Netflix. Watch it. A couple other things that I watched on planes because I was delayed for 2 hours at the Pearson Airport. I watched this movie called Ambulance. I expected it to be terrible. It's with Jake Gyllenhaal. No other real big actors in it. I'm trying to think. No other real big actors but Jake Gyllenhaal in it. It was better than I thought it was going to be. It's about these Jake Gyllenhaal and this group of people rob a bank, and it goes completely wrong. There's a cop that comes in. He's trying to talk to a teller. It goes completely haywire. It's an action film. I've seen a lot of bank robbery movies. This was actually pretty good. Most of it is in an ambulance. That's why it's called that. But I think it's pretty well done. I like Jake Gyllenhaal as an actor. He's fantastic in Prisoners. He's fantastic in a lot of different roles, I find. He's just a very good actor. But Ambulance was okay. I watched The Northman. Fantastic. I won't go too into details about that. Ethan Hawke is in that film with Nicole Kidman. Great movie. I watched Blackbird. I teased this right before I left. If I had to pick two things, watch the Manti Te'o doc and watch Blackbird. It's on Apple TV. It is phenomenal. It's 6 episodes, so 6 hours of content. You can breeze through it in a day. I did. So compelling. Jack Keane played Elton John in Rocket Man, which wasn't a good movie. I didn't like it, but I'll get to another movie I watched that was not good. But it's about this guy who gets arrested for drug trafficking. He's in jail for 10 years. This FBI agent comes to him and says, "We will free you from jail." He served 7 months at the time. So 7 months of a 10-year sentence with no chance of parole. "We will release you from prison. You will walk scot-free. But what you have to do is go to Springfield maximum security prison with a bunch of insane, psycho mass murderers because they need to get a confession from a man in there that he's killed a number of women. They have on the record that he's killed 2, but he's recanted that. They said he was coerced into saying it. They believe there's 15 to 20 other women that he's killed and buried somewhere in the Indiana area. So they ask him to go in there and talk to Larry D. Hall, who is a psycho. And he's an interesting story because he's got a twin that took a lot of his organs at birth. And watch Blackbird. I'm not going to give too much away. It's a slow start. It takes a while to get into it, but it's only 6 hours. It's only 6 hours of content. Apple TV. By the way, there's so many great things in Apple TV. I realized that. I just bought it recently. A lot of really great shows. Get Apple TV. Just as good as Netflix, if you ask me. But get Apple TV. And then, before we get to NFL, I watched Elvis. Elvis was horrible. I wanted it to be good. I really did. The guy who played Elvis, Austin Butler, very good. Solid. And you'd think, okay, the main cat can save a movie, right? Austin Butler played Elvis. I want it to be great. Tom Hanks, who is one of the greatest actors of his generation, might have had his worst acting performance I've ever seen. He was like a method actor. He was like Jared Leto in this film. He was horrible. You can't understand a word he's saying. The movie is just, it's not true. A lot of it's gone. They don't mention that Elvis marries a 14-year-old and how problematic that is. It just wasn't well done. I really wish it was. I wouldn't recommend the movie. It's not going to be nominated for awards. Austin Butler is not even going to be nominated for the awards because the movie's too trash for him to be nominated for awards. I've noticed these music biopics, a lot of them are bad. Rocket Man was not a good movie. I'm sorry. I know everybody loves Elton John. That doesn't change how great the singer was. Elton John's a fantastic musician. Movie sucked. Elvis, garbage. The Queen one was fantastic. Bohemian Rhapsody was great. But a lot of these music biopic movies don't resonate. They don't bring it. They fall flat. People feel like they have to overact in the movies. Tom Hanks did in this one. It didn't do anything for me, this movie. I wouldn't watch it. I wouldn't waste your time. Watch Blackbird. Don't watch Elvis. Couple extra hours of content, but it's actually good. Elvis just didn't bring it. And they keep making more of these music movies, and I think they're only going to get worse. Because they don't tell the whole truth. That's one of the biggest problems I have with these movies. Elton John was a drug addict. They didn't touch on it enough. He wasn't a great human being for a lot of his life. Elvis married a 14-year-old. That's rape. Yes, rape. Okay, it might have been a different time, but that doesn't change. That doesn't change the fact that it was. Tom Hanks. I can't even give you 3 performances where Tom Hanks wasn't good. Tom Hanks is a fantastic actor. I don't love the movie Forrest Gump. That might be a hot take of the day. I don't think it's a very good movie at all. I think he's good in the movie. I think Forrest Gump's a piece of crap. But I have a long list of movies that are critically loved that I hate. Titanic, I think, sucks. I think it's one of the worst movies I've ever seen. I hate Avatar. Avatar, they're making 2 or 3 more. I don't know why. The first one was so terrible, I could hardly sit through it. Forrest Gump, I don't think is a good movie. Another one that is just trash. I could go through more. That'll be another show because I'm sure some people hear this and really hate that take. But yeah, Elvis, not worth your time. Those are some things I watched on my travels as I went to and from Edmonton, Alberta. Now to the NFL. This is going to be the last time I talk about Deshaun Watson because I'm sure you guys are getting tired of me talking about him. I'm getting tired of me giving him my breath because he doesn't deserve to be talked about. However, I have to touch on the fact that Deshaun Watson on Friday was handed a 11-game suspension and a $5 million fine agreed upon by the NFL and NFL Players Association. The sad thing here is this was all a ruse. That the NFL cared that he got a long suspension, that the NFLPA was trying. This was all just a battle so that the NFL could do something that people somewhat agreed with, and the NFLPA helped Deshaun enough to look like they were siding with a sexually deviant piece of shit human being. 11 games for 24 different women, 24 different cases. Let's think of this. The judge, who was Judge Sue L. Robinson, who is a judge, you think pretty smart person. You gotta be a lawyer first, and you become a judge. That's a lot of years of school. I only went for 4, but she wrote in her report that Deshaun Watson was a first-time offender. Well, if there's 24 different times, 24 different women that he did this to, the 24th time that he did it, to me in my brain, again, not a real smart guy, but I try every now and then, that wouldn't be the first time. That would be the 24th different time he's done it. So that would be a 24th offender, not a first-time offender. I think, but maybe I'm wrong. That's basic math, and I passed basic math. I couldn't get past the hard shit. But again, we're doing basic math here. So to me, that's incorrect. So Deshaun Watson's not a first-time offender, but the NFL didn't care. The NFLPA didn't care, and fans don't seem to care. Some Cleveland, they're asking to free Deshaun. Deshaun Watson should have been suspended for a year or more because the guy's a scumbag. Jimmy Haslam, the owner of the Cleveland Browns, is a scumbag. The guy signs a guy $230 million guaranteed while he has all these sexual crap against him. Sexual assault cases. You give him the most guaranteed money in the history of the National Football League. You know what that means to me? You are enabling that behavior. You are saying, you know what? It's okay that, pardon me, that you're a piece of shit because you can help us win football games. Sometimes life is more important than business, is more important than the bottom line. But unfortunately, it isn't here. It isn't. And what this does do is say to all those women who Deshaun said, I'm sorry that I triggered. He's never admitted. He's never said, I'm sorry. He hasn't done anything to show remorse for what he's did. Just be a quarterback. Just, walk the line. And now the Haslams are donating $1 million to charity. $1 million? They're fucking billionaires. They're donating $1 million. That's like the piss we just took. It's ridiculous. And the sad thing is, and I've said this before, and I'm a fucking hypocrite, I'm going to continue to watch football because I'm addicted to it. It's sickening. I wish I could stop. I wish I had the backbone to say, I'm not watching this league anymore. What I will say, though, is Deshaun Watson, you start against the Houston Texans, which isn't lost on me. Believe me, they took 11 games so they could sell that Deshaun Watson's first game back is against his old team in Houston. Wow, that's just luck that's happening that way. But if you're a Cleveland Browns fan and you're rooting for Deshaun Watson, you are just like Jimmy Haslam. You are enabling that behavior. You are saying that's okay. It's okay to all those women that he affected. He is a sexual predator. He is a sexual predator. That's what he is. All the luck in the world to Jacoby Brissett. But the fact that the NFL was just just looking for a settlement so that people were appeased is a joke. A joke. Should have been given a year plus. All the female fans of the NFL, I'm sorry. You deserve better. And it should be every male thrown into this as well, but some men just wouldn't have that opinion. Some males would side with Deshaun Watson or not look at it this way. I do. Deshaun Watson can go to hell, but he wins in the end. $5 million fine. So he gets $225 million guaranteed. He's making $1 million salary this year. It's truly, I don't understand it. I do, but I wish I didn't. I wish this wasn't the way the world works. I wish there was a better way that we could do this, and there is. It's called right and wrong. But unfortunately, in life, wrong is winning more than right. I got resolution. I got vindication. I felt closure when Colin Kaepernick was proven right. Unfortunately, it took the death of George Floyd and a number of other young black people to learn that. When it comes to these cases, what's an 11-game suspension? You still get to play 5 more years of your career. What is? Everybody deserves a second chance, but people deserve a second chance when they've admitted they did something wrong. He never has. He's shown no remorse. All he said is, I'm sorry if I've triggered anybody. When you say you've triggered people, that means, to me, that's admitting guilt. However, that's not the way he phrased it. Deshaun Watson should get help. He's a sexual predator. I'm not going to name him again on this podcast. I'll talk about the Cleveland Browns. We'll talk about the Lions. We'll recap their games because that's my job. That's what I do here. We'll talk about Jacoby Brissett. We'll talk about the Cleveland Browns offense. We'll talk about Kareem Hunt, another sexual predator they have on the team. We'll talk about Nick Chubb and their revamped offense with Amari Cooper. But I will not talk about Deshaun Watson anymore until I literally have to when he's back on the field. But the fact that he will be playing in 2023 is a flat-out travesty and a fucking joke. The NFL should be embarrassed. The NFL should really look in the mirror and think about who you're promoting, who you're siding with, this scumbag of a human being named Deshaun Watson. Thank you. In other news, the Carolina Panthers named their starting quarterback on Monday. That will be Baker Mayfield Jr. III. Baker Mayfield won the starting job. He was traded from Cleveland just a few months ago. Him and Sam Darnold were competing. To me, it was never really a decision. Baker Mayfield's a far superior quarterback. And I've talked about the Carolina Panthers before. I think the Carolina Panthers can make the playoffs with Baker Mayfield at the helm. Their offensive line needs to hold up. Christian McCaffrey's health is paramount to this. They got DJ Moore. They got Robbie Anderson. They have a good offense in Carolina. And they're in a weaker conference. The NFC is far inferior to the AFC this season. So I look at the situation for Carolina. I think they can have some success. I think Baker can have a good season in Carolina. And we'll see what happens. But I think this is the correct decision for Sam Darnold. I just want to see how he takes this as a backup quarterback. Matt Corral, who was drafted in the 3rd round, has a Liz Frank injury in his foot. He's going to miss the entire season. So it will likely be Baker and Darnold as the 1-2 in the quarterback room all season long. So we'll see if Sam Darnold can be a good teammate to Baker, because who knows, with injuries or just with play, Sam Darnold could be on the field before we know it. Other news around the league, rookie Kayvon Thibodeau had surgery for the Giants after getting chip blocked. He may miss week 1. Chase Young, the great pass rusher for the Commanders, is out the first 4 weeks of the season after tearing his ACL last year. Some other injuries. I guess some Kenny Pickett, the quarterback out of Pitt, playing for the Pittsburgh Steelers now, has looked fantastic in 2 preseason games. Trubisky's looked good as well. Desmond Ridder has looked good for the Atlanta Falcons. He had a showcase game on Monday night against the Jets. But Marcus Mariota has played well. So I expect Marcus Mariota and Mitch Trubisky, who are both similar quarterbacks who both like to move using their legs and use bootlegs, use those type of plays. I expect both the veterans to start the season as the starting quarterbacks, but I expect both Pickett and I expect Desmond Ridder to to be able to start a game before week 6 in this upcoming season, because I think teams want to get a look at both guys to see if they can be the respective quarterbacks of the future in Atlanta and in Pittsburgh. Deshaun Watson. Deshaun Watson. Didn't mean to say that. Lamar Jackson. Same division. Not even the same person, character-wise. Deshaun Watson. Oh, my God. Noah, first day back. Still tired. Lamar Jackson, I apologize, has not played in the preseason yet. He's still waiting for a new contract from the Baltimore Ravens. I talked about how if I was him, I would not be playing this season. He said he's got it up till the start of the season. That's his date to sign a long-term extension. It was reported yesterday by Jay Glazer of Fox Sports that Lamar Jackson has been offered more money than Kyler Murray by the Baltimore Ravens, but the deal is being hung up because Lamar Jackson wants the entire deal guaranteed. Number one, I don't blame Lamar Jackson at all for wanting this. Kirk D. Cousins got his entire contract guaranteed in Minnesota. Aaron Rodgers got his entire contract guaranteed in Green Bay. A number of quarterbacks have gotten this. Lamar Jackson deserves that security. He's won an MVP. Kirk D. Cousins not won an MVP. Aaron Rodgers won back-to-back, but Lamar Jackson is a very good quarterback, and the Baltimore is nothing without him. He played last season without half a roster, and they remain competitive in a very highly contested AFC North. So, again, if I'm Lamar, it's tough for me to say I play this and wait it out, because if he tears his ACL, he's not going to get that money after this season, and Lord knows Baltimore is not going to be waiting, with the Brinks truck ready to back it up for him after he loses a season injury. If I'm him, I wait till the end, and I likely take the Kyler Murray deal because I want that guaranteed money. I want a big deal. I want some security because he plays the game recklessly. He moves his legs a lot, and he's one hit away from a torn ACL, from a torn Achilles, and you never know what can happen. So I worry about that with the Ravens. If I'm Lamar, I likely take that, and they probably know that he might if it doesn't come to that. The Ravens this preseason, looks like they got a two-headed monster at tight end. Mark Andrews has been one of the best tight ends in football for some time. They have Isaiah Likely. Look out for this guy. He's a tight end out of Coastal Carolina, who's been Coastal Carolina solid program for the last couple seasons, and he had 8 receptions for 100 yards in their last preseason game, so he's standing out big time for the Baltimore Ravens. He looks really solid. George Pickens, a wide receiver, rookie for Pittsburgh, is playing extremely well in the preseason. Kyle Pitts looks great for Atlanta's second year, but again, he looks like he's primed to have a big season for them. I'm excited for this season to start. This is the last week of preseason games. It starts tomorrow night, and we'll start getting to more NFL talk. As I mentioned, tomorrow we're going to do the AFC North preview. We'll talk about Green Bay. We'll talk about all the major things happening in that division, and it's an interesting one. We'll continue to do those as we move forward. I'm going to do another one Saturday or later this weekend. So we'll have 2 divisional breakdowns this weekend for you. And my next week, or it might be actually the week after, I'll do that just prior to the NFL season starting. So that'll likely be Monday. We are going to do the so a week from Monday, which is the week before the NFL season starts. Correct. Yes. We are going to do my quarterback rankings list that day, my top 32 quarterbacks in the NFL. We'll go through every division before that time. Matt Wright will join me likely every week. We're going to talk college football. College football starts this week, week 0. A number of games, including Nebraska and Northwestern in Dublin, Ireland. So that's a game on Saturday. We got Vanderbilt, Hawaii, another late game. But before we go to next weekend, we'll talk about a lot of different transfers in college football, why this season should be interesting. And I'm really excited for this college football season because I think there's going to be a number of really good teams, a number of teams interesting to watch, and a lot of really good draft picks for this upcoming season. So I'm fired up for that. We'll get more into baseball talk tomorrow. I didn't get into it today. We'll talk about the Jays. I talked about Fernando Tatis before I left, but he's been going through a lot since then. I'll talk about Walker Buehler tomorrow. Really big news regarding him and the Dodgers and kind of where I see that going. We'll talk about the Yankees. So we'll talk baseball tomorrow. We'll go through the AFC North preview tomorrow as well. So lots of content coming tomorrow as we get closer to the weekend. So everybody, it's been too long since I did this. I loved being back on. I love interacting with you all. So leave your comments, leave your thoughts. If you have any thoughts on my movies, and if you get to watch Blackbird, let me know what you think of it, because I'd love to hear your perspective on it. So everybody, great to be back. Love to hear from you. Let's keep this going. Let's keep the engagement level high. And as always, Take care. This is To The Point.